fantastic. And there we go. Fantastic. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to welcome a true leader whose career embodies a rare and powerful combination of strategic command and cutting edge technological innovation. I want to first welcome a fellow U.S. Army veteran, Ross Coffman. We share a journey of service. I know firsthand intensity, discipline, and focus in bringing every single challenge to the forefront. It recently translating from decades of service, including a major role as Deputy Command General of the U.S. Army Futures Command, where he was shaping the future of defense technology. Now he's taken that incredible experience, managing multi-million-dollar budgets and overseeing complex global operations and tens of thousands of personnel to the private sector. He is the president of Forward Edge AI, a company that is the forefront of AI innovation. His mission has shifted from leading battalions and whole entire Army groups to leading the tech revolution, providing the principles and strong leadership and being able to showcase that universally. Please give me a warm welcome to sit there and welcome Ross to our connections today. So let's give him a round of applause. Good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Clay. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you very much for joining us today. And like I said before, when the leadership sits there and sees a bunch of Army people on the schedule, they dust me off and have me sit there and run through these. So it's a pleasure to speak with you today. First question I always like to sit there and ask anybody here is, tell us your origin story. What led you to the Army, becoming an Army officer, and your career and your decades of service with the U.S. Army?
Yeah, so I grew up as an Army brat, and my dad said, I'm going to help you with college, but you have to serve your country in some way. That is your debt to pay. You can be a Red Cross volunteer, you can be a Boy Scout leader, you can be a swim coach, you can do whatever you want, but you have to serve your country in some way. And so I was like, oh, I'll be a doctor. And he's like, yeah, that works. And then I took chemistry and pledged a fraternity at the same time, and that did not work out well at all. And luckily, I was signed up for ROTC and really took a liking to it. And it sent me to a bunch of schools during ROTC, and then when my first big thing was Desert Storm. So I was a tank platoon leader in Desert Storm. I was hooked. I love the people. I love the mission. I love 120 millimeter smoothbore cannon, shooting, moving, and communicating. All that stuff. I was all in. And like most of us, there were times in my career where I wasn't having the most fun I've ever had. But it was always the people that kept me in. Yeah, I just kept serving and serving. And I basically, for 29 years, I was either fighting or training to fight. That's all we did. And I was in Eastern Poland. Really, I was in Eastern Europe, going from all the rim countries, developing the tactical defense plan, because they wouldn't talk to each other. They'd only talk to us. So I'd go from country to country and meet with them, coordinate that. And the phone rings, and it's General Officer Branch, and when they call, you pick up. You're either getting fired, promoted, or moved. And so they said, you're moving to Detroit, Michigan. And I had some colorful words and said, what combat units in Detroit? I'll put it simply. That's not what I said, but that's what I meant. What combat units in Detroit? They said, there isn't a combat unit in Detroit. I said, yeah, then why the hell are you sending me? They said, you're going to go build all the new vehicles for our Army, robots, tanks, personnel fighting vehicles, personnel carriers, etc. And I thought I had an out. I said, well, I'm not an engineer. I'm just a little boy from Kentucky with a liberal arts degree. And they said, you're going to tell the engineers what to do. No one's asking if you want to go get your ass to Detroit. So I get to Detroit, did that for 4 years, and learned a ton about acquisition and vehicle development, combat development, all that stuff. And then they called and said, you're going to move to Austin, Texas and take your boss's job. So my portfolio changed from just vehicles to everything from vaccines to space payloads, and everything in between. And so that's kind of how I ended up here.
That's a really interesting story. Yeah, when Branch calls, it's something is interesting. I remember getting those calls myself for sure. You've spent years leading massively complex organizations like you were just talking about in the Army, managing budgets in the hundreds of millions and transforming combat vehicle programs. What is the biggest transferable leadership lesson from managing all those larger organizations that you now apply daily as president of your organization?
Yeah, I call it the silver bullet leadership. Everyone says there's no silver bullet, and I disagree. Uh, Regardless of how big the organization is, what your job is, what your role is, just love your people. Put them ahead of yourself. Care more about the unit's mission than your own. Focus on the human aspect, understanding that each one of the people that came to your organization bring their own unique baggage. I often tell people trust is not earned. I'm sorry, learned. Mistrust is learned. When you're a kid, you're sitting there fat, dumb, and happy with a toy or a piece of candy, and someone comes and snatches it from you. And you learn that, oh, people will take things that I have. And now I mistrust you. And when you amplify that across a person's life, they have all kinds of things that people have caused them not to trust certain aspects. So I think as a leader, you have to give your trust freely. Like no one has to earn your trust. I think that's a bullshit way to lead. It's like, earn my trust. Instead, I flip it on its head, and I give you my trust completely until you give me a reason not to. And it's my role to earn your trust every day. And most of the time, that involves human interaction. When today's remote work environment is really, really hard. So I'll pause there.
The honesty to it 1000%, having that trust and understanding and making sure that your team's getting it done is super important. Forward Edge AI is highly competitive, rapidly evolving, and the AI market overall is changing almost hourly. Drawing on your experiences, particularly with the next gen combat vehicle program, how do you define those must have skill sets that allow your team to move forward with speed and agility and making sure that you're outpacing the competition?
Yeah, so your tech's got to be good, obviously, right? I mean, you have to be on the cutting edge of tech, but that's not enough. You have to understand what problem you're trying to solve, and that comes through interviewing your customers. I also do a lot of consulting for startups, and I can't tell you the number of startups that have an idea that nobody wants. It seems like a good idea. Their mother and father said that was a good idea, but it's crap. Okay, and it's not crap because it's not interesting tech. It's crap because there's no customer. So I find that basic tenet to be very important, regardless of the size of the budget or the organization. And so I really think that if you can listen to the customer, have cutting edge tech, and then surround yourself with really good people, that you'll win. Our tech was made in conjunction with the NSA, and I have one right here. So all of you that have been in the military, you've had TAC lands or HAPEs, all that tech is susceptible to quantum computers when they come online. And this device will replace those and secure every utility company, every banking company, every ATM, you name it. Anything that uses 256-bit encryption is suspect. And I'm not saying that we're going to have the total market. I'm just saying that we're going to be in each vertical. And what's neat is it was originally developed for the President of the United States and currently secures communications off Air Force One. It is an exciting technology. And I'll give you just a small example. Every bank in Japan has to be secured by the end of 2026. The U.S. government has said all of our government agencies have to be post-quantum secure by 2026, end of 26, 27. So there's a huge demand out there for it. And our solution is 100% secure, hardware, software with 3 processors, 2 encryption units, 1 network interface device, and it's going to change the world. This thing is, a Happy is about 40K, I think. This is $2,000, or we'll give it to a company for free, and we'll just subscription model. It's a huge model.
That's an interesting business model. That's actually a really good idea. I mean, I assume you're having some success with that, sir.
It's in space right now. It's on NOMARS, the unmanned surface vessel that's circumnavigating the globe. It's been in the air, it's been on the ground. JSOC likes it. We are 1 month away from product launch. So that it's still
fantastic.
I just stood up my office in Tokyo, just stood up my office in Taiwan. We got a manufacturing line in Taiwan. We'll do it there. Malaysia's next. We got South Africa, Greece. I mean, we're on every continent except Australia right now. That's inhabited. So it's just a really fun thing, and it's all like, it's what I loved about the Army, right? It's young people, young, smart people dedicated to a common purpose. And we got a ton of veterans. And finding the talent, that's the hardest thing that we can do, right? Is we need the best people on the team, because when you're lean and distributed, it's rough. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, sir. I'm driving to a medical appointment, so I apologize. I'm in my vehicle. But I had a question, because you said something curious, and it kind of, I'm a very in my head kind of person. I kind of overanalyze everything. But you said that, for the post-quantum computing security of your device, that you said you're 100% secure. And I just thought back to the Titanic, right? When they were so confident that the ship was not going to sink, right? And, with quantum computing and AI, I think it's only a matter of time when those two things merge that we're going to get to a point, because of how fast quantum computing is, and with AI's ability to learn, that we're going to get to a point where we're going to have a hard time keeping up. And I guess, do you foresee potential risks and stuff associated with that potential? Because I just feel like when those two things are kind of married, we're gonna struggle significantly as human beings to try to solve problems that those things are going to create. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
No, it's a fair question, Chris. Couple different things. We're standards based. So the NSA has said that post-quantum encryption can only use can only use 5 algorithms. And so we're using those algorithms. We have no public key interface. So it's undetectable. It looks like Netflix. It looks like just common traffic. Nobody knows what it is there. But you're right. Once quantum computers come online, okay, maybe the NSA was wrong. Maybe those 5 algorithms don't work. The way we've designed ours is it's crypto agile. So it's remotely deployed. I can change all of the encryption remotely. So is anything foolproof like the Titanic, the folks that built the Titanic thought? Absolutely not. But we've got contingencies built in, and so I think we're in a really good position. But we've had this thing. Look, Lumen has been trying to hack this for 2 years. They can't hack it. We're pretty confident in the tech, but let's face it, the tech is not. You can have the best tech in the world. Most security breaches happen because of humans, whether it's a
There we
phishing,
go.
and we're not in the security guard business. We're in the encryption business. So I'm very confident in my encryption. The physical security and the discipline of the organization is on the leadership of that team.
Does that make sense for everyone here? All my cyber people, thumbs up, making sense? Don't be afraid to ask questions, guys. This is definitely the individual. If you have questions on AI and where to go, this is it. Beyond the code, sir, what's the human problem besides the security failures or the mission that Forward Edge AI is currently tackling that requires the most creative, outside the box thinking for, let's say, your newest team members? What's your, process or purpose through that, sir?
What's the biggest problem I have with human beings in an organization? Or
yes, besides the breaches, or what could be the most, the problem that requires that out of the box thinking for your newest team members?
Yeah. I'm going to answer that just a little differently.
Okay.
My newest team members, I talked to all the new ones that we have. We're about 65, including contractors now, so we're still a very small company. At Forward Edge, there's only one way to fail, and that's not to try. If you don't try, then you fail. Humans, I have a whole list of things I was going to talk about, and you're hitting on a couple of them. It's like you don't ask for help, right? That's a big human problem. We don't share information. I don't know what it's like in the other services, but in every command post in the Army, there's a little sign that says, "Who else needs to know?" Humans have a problem with that. So if you're going to be innovative, you got to share, and you got to ask questions. You got to ask for help. And then a huge problem I have with the humans in my team are documentation. So if you get hit on the head, where's the documentation of where you are in your project? And it's a problem at Google, and it's a problem at Dell, and it's a problem with us. These are all human issues. Look, I'm going to be very transparent here. In October, I had my company all hands in San Antonio, Texas, with my CEO. And I stood up and said, "Look, we got startup problems. And we just do. And they're not unique to us, but we got to fix them. And it's really hard because we're 100% remote. We got people in Taiwan and Japan, Montenegro, and everywhere in between. So I'll just run through them really quick. But this is why you're getting hired. Okay. At the end of the day, why someone's hiring you is not because you're extremely handsome or pretty. Okay. It's because you're coming from the service. And there's an expectation that, I don't know if you have to map it out. The expectation is, if you're a man, you're probably growing some ridiculous beard on your first 2 months out of the service. I call it ridiculous because I can't grow one, right? I mean, I look like Snoopy's cousin Spike or a catfish if I try. And then you're going to show up with all those things that don't cost any money. And we've all seen those lists on the internet where, show up on time, et cetera, et cetera. That's what they want out of you. That's what I want out of you if you come work for me. But it's be responsive. Email, Slack, Teams, whatever it is. Sort your information by like the CEO first. Okay. Or your boss first. Be responsive. Um, you know, follow the standards, right? We have standards in our company, and I had some people not follow them. One of it is nothing goes outside the organization unless two other members have read it. And yet people are sending stuff outside the organization is wrong. You have to fix that. Not doing mandatory training, not following HR systems, not sharing information, not having, not working with your peers, not asking for help, not empowering the most important people on the team. So the frontline troops in our business, that's the sales engineers, that's the salesman, that's the cyber project lead, whoever. Those people shouldn't have to mother may I. Empower people. People don't know their next 3 deliverables. What are their longest lead time items? Not getting things reviewed a week before they're due. On and on and on, right? But really it's not curious and not thoughtful. And so we like at Fortedge, we like people who are curious and thoughtful of making sure the entire team is included, and curious and trying new things. That these are the type of people that we're looking for. And we've had tremendous success, but these things still plague us week to week, not day to day, but week to week. Someone will make a mistake. We underwrite it every time. You know, it's not, no one's getting put at the position of attention. It's a conversation of, you're not meeting the standard. You knew the standard. What are you going to do to make it better? And so that's the human aspect of my business.
You know, and making sure that people are held to the standard is vitally important. And we've all had those conversations. And I remember my first time having that conversation with my squad leader as a young E4 specialist, being a fire team leader. And he goes, "You're just not cutting out. Here's what's going on," you know. And I thought that I was doing great. Reality expectation was no, I needed to improve. And that was a real big gut check for me as an E4 with a Ranger tab, you know, a year after, you know, kicking off everything. So it's always good. You really brought up a very good thing. The next 3 deliverables and what is the longest lead time on a project. For those of us here who have PMPs and work in these highly technical spaces, how often are you seeing, like, between your sales and your ops teams, kind of, you know, does it balance out every now and again, or do you try to see, does it stay sort of equal in terms of your vision and strategy, sir?
Yeah, it's always a challenge, right? So, I mean, I have people that are bending physics right now, and they're designing things. They're designing new PCBs, they're designing new boards and new products. And they won't talk to the manufacturing arm because to make sure what they're designing is manufacturable. So that's a challenge. Sales engineers. I had no idea what a sales engineer was a year ago. So for those of you that were like me, these are the Muldoons that are technical that go with the salesman. So you got the guy with the good hair and the woman with the you know, sharp suit on, who's the salesperson. And they're working that side of the deal. And then they say, okay, now let us show us your tech. And this is the engineer that goes through and shows them how it works, can go as deep as they want. And all those are really vital. Speaking of which, we were having a hard time getting good sales engineers because most engineers are in a lab or not this is not a criticism. I think every engineer on the line or anyone that knows an engineer would agree. Sometimes the people who are super technical are not necessarily outgoing people. So it's a special kind of person. So I was sitting in my house here in Austin, and I thought, warrant officers. Warrant officers are tech, and they can generally throw a football. Okay, so we started hiring warrant officers to be our sales engineers, and it's really worked out great.
As a retired CWO3 myself, I totally understand that. Based on, you oversaw a $2.5 million retooling program for mechanics and ensuring optimal readiness for them. Today, what do you say is the most valuable tool or professional development investment that Forward Edge AI provides to its employees so that they are the most efficient in the industry?
Yeah, it's a pretty high bar, right, Clay? I mean, but you have to approach it that way. We have mandatory training, which obviously everyone thinks, the stuff we had to do during the military. That's not what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We set up training programs on our products, and then everyone has to pass a test at 90% or higher. We have mentors within the company. So we have a large group of interns. We got a large group of skill bridgers. And every Tuesday, the CEO sits down with all of them, mentors them on tech, and they can say whatever they want. They can ask any question, and it stays there. We focus on the education as much as possible. And we understand that not everybody needs all of the same skill sets, right? So my electrical engineers need to understand artificial intelligence and the application of which so they can build the boards support it. But my HR person, I don't need her writing code. So our education is broken out by skill set. And that's how we do it.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, as much as people like to cross-pollinate, there's definitely things. If an HR person is writing code, something has gone incredibly wrong, unless they're trying to fix something in HRIS. When you look at the next 12 to 18 months, what is the single largest technical or operational challenge that you are facing and that you need to staff up for right now to solve?
Yeah. So obviously in my encryption business, the Q day, when quantum computers can break our 256-bit encryption, that is the number one thing on my radar. And nobody's freaking talking about it. You couldn't go 5 minutes without someone saying Y2K. Y2K was a minimal threat.
Yeah.
I speak all over the world on this subject, and it's in a very military fashion. I can bring any country to its knees in about 6 steps once I can break your encryption. So that's the number one. The the rise of agentic AI, I think, is a huge opportunity. And as I think it was Chris that said, now layering technologies and finding the best applicability between two technologies to 1 + 1 = 3. That is ginormous. The last one I'll tell you is, electronic warfare is big. And we're working on, we've got two other products that we're working on. One, we're putting the founder in for the Nobel Prize, and the other one is an EW system that, you know, in just high level terms, based on classification of this and that, nobody can talk and nobody can see you. Only you can talk, and you're obfuscated. They have no idea where you are. We call it slaughterhouse. And that thing is amazing. Right now it's this big, right? And we need to get it this big. So technologically, it's the miniaturization process for us that we're working through. And then our AI platform is just crushing it for business solutions. So that agentic system is going to really help just remove mundane tasks, the 3Ds.
It's absolutely fantastic. Where do you see the future of, I mean, Chris kind of touched on it, you know, quantum computing is going to start growing, and we know about the security requirements that NSA has, as well as the other, you know, government agencies out there. Where do you see AI in the private sector 4 years from now? Because that is the largest, you know, for lack of a better term, hairball that a lot of people are having arguments over. You know, Amazon lays off a bunch of people just because they're heavily investing in AI. Then you have other people who've been in the tech game sitting there saying the whole entire AI train will crash and we're going to go back to human people because AI is lacking, you know, critical thinking skills of a human being. Where do you see AI for 5 years from now in the private sector?
Yeah, I think there's going to be this is my prediction. And obviously nobody knows. Except maybe ChatGPT, yes, Sam. So you got all the mundane tasks, I think, go to AI. You know, anything that we're manually doing now that I think that goes to AI. You'll need people to supervise that, but I mean the numbers will be small. Let's put the Wayback Machine to the 50s when artificial intelligence was, you know, originally thought of. I like to say, and I just gave this class at NYU, artificial intelligence isn't, you know, a noun the way we use it today. We use it wrong. It's an academic discipline for create a thinking computer. And there's only one guarantee, and I'll bet any amount of money on this, that it's going to make mistakes. Okay, it just will. And AI is several things, as we all know on here. Is, you know, there's sensing or vision, you know, which just skyrocketed. Remember when you saw the Face ID stuff a couple of years back, you were like blown away. Like, oh my goodness, this is AI. This is the AI. This is the AI. No, that's just the vision. And then when language came on board, and when the LLMs hit, everyone was blown away. But vision kind of remains stagnant. You know, you got this agentic coming on. So AI is coming up at different levels. And so what I think you're going to find in the next years is a leapfrog within each of those silos, unlike anything we've ever seen. And the effect on the private sector will be a knee jerk and then a re-leveling, a knee jerk and a re-leveling. Like, okay, I'm going to fire 15,000 people. Okay, I need to actually hire 2,000 more. Because of the solution sets. And I think you're going to see that. I think AI is, I love it. Okay, but there are aspects that are just really scary, and it's not for the US. I'm not afraid of what the US will do, because we are generally an ethical force. That's not true. We are a 100% ethical force, and we hold ourselves accountable. And you see what's going on with these drug boats. I mean, people are holding accountable. Whether or not that falls on one side of the issue or the other, it doesn't matter to me. I just glad that we're looking into it and investigating it. Right? That's I like to keep everybody honest. But Chinese and Russians and North Korea and Iran, they will not self-limit. They are not ethical. In 2020, I started a project that I wanted to identify and geolocate enemy targets by type. This wasn't even AI, this was just optimization. I wanted to optimize the ideal shooter for those targets, mission that shooter, and have that shooter eradicate the target without a human involved. And we did it. I call it the Oppenheimer moment, or the Miles Dyson moment. And I don't know if you know who the great philosopher Miles Dyson is, but that's who Sarah Connor came back to kill, because she figured if she could kill Miles Dyson in the Terminator movies, that they would stop all of the progression. So I kept looking over my shoulder after we did it. I'm like, Sarah's coming for me. Mine is, I think in 5 years, you'll see 100% autonomous killing systems from our adversaries. And that should scare the hell out of you.
I was having a conversation a couple of days ago with a friend of mine who's actually over in Ukraine, and he is running into drones, little basically manpad drones that are being tested from the Russians that are AI controlled. So that is 100% something. And I'm really glad you brought it up, that we operate in that ethical space far more than anybody else out there, regardless of some of the political fluff that some people will say that out there. So with that being said, do you ever think that there will be a private sector organization here in the US that may test that line when it comes down to AI or anything like that? And what would be your response to something like that?
Oh, I think they're doing it today. They're not doing it legally.
Okay.
They're not doing it legally. They're doing it financially. They're doing things like, I don't know how many people we have on this call, but
You got 77 people, sir.
how many? 97? Okay. So
77, sir.
Okay. If I went and looked at the 77 Google searches in the last 48 hours for 77 people, and then I could tell you whether or not Delta Airlines stock is going to go up in a quarter, right? If I magnify that towards the entire country, how many people are buying Delta tickets? How many people are searching on Amazon for what? And they're applying AI to that, and then hedging bets on the stock exchange based on it. That's nefarious. Smart as hell, but it's and so my response is I hate bureaucracy, but I like standards and I like rules. And finding the line between the government regulating and over-regulating is really hard. But I think we need some form of standards, and that's what it's going to come down to, is a voluntary, Fortune 500 companies will voluntarily follow those standards, I believe. Others will not. And you just got to be aware that it's out there. Hey, Clay, I know we're running short on time here.
Yes, sir.
There's a point that I wanted to give that I think would be very helpful for everyone on the net, except you possibly.
Go ahead, sir.
So look, I've interviewed a ton of people. I've whether that's Zoom or in person, it doesn't matter. So this is what I'd say. Number one, answer the damn question. Okay. When they ask you the question, write it down. Read it back to them. Just so I make sure I have this straight. This is what you're asking. Yes, it gives you time to think. Before you go in the interview, come up with 4 or 5 stories that you have. Okay. Good and bad leadership, difficult situations where you had to make it, you had to step in and act one way or another. A bad boss, good leadership techniques that you've exhibited. And just get those, I was on the USS whatever, and this happened, and all the skipper cared about was strawberries or whatever. And this is what I did. And now you have those. No matter what the question is, you can pull from one of those 4 and flip it in there somehow. Well, I remember when I was doing this, and it, keeping in mind what job you're interviewing for. So an example of what you did as a brand new person in the military probably isn't as applicable as the job that you're leaving, right? The more recent. But go through that, and then you just have ammunition, and you've already written the stories down. And so now that if you're doing it over a Zoom call, I would just have those 4 things listed out in front of me, and like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna, when I'm writing the question down or whatever, okay, I'm gonna use this story. And I think it will be very helpful. The other one is what I think people often overlook is the humility involved, but not a wilting flower. So they don't want you to defer. It's going to be uncomfortable for you, but you're going to have to use the word I for the first time since you joined the military. Like, I did this. It wasn't my team did this. I was part of a team that did this. No, I did this. You gotta get over that whole selfless service, deflecting phrase, and you have to be a little more focused on your actions. And so that's confidence. The humility comes in this. They ask you a question, and a great response that I've heard is, I'm so glad you asked that question. When I first joined the military or my last job, I had problems with that. That was a shortcoming for me. And I did this, and this to improve. And by the end of my tour, I was recognized as the best in that area because of the training program that I put myself on to get there. And it blows people away. Like, this guy's telling me he or she was really bad at something. No, it's showing you that I'm capable of learning and adapting and malleable. And I recognize my shortcomings and I go after them and fix them. If you can do that, those few techniques, I think, answer the damn question being number one, but I think it'll be very helpful for you. And that's really the main thing I wanted to talk about today.
Fantastic. Absolutely. We are at 45 past the hour, and I know that you are very busy with everything. So, Ross, sir, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. And I've had several dozen people chat with me on the side. They would like to sit there and potentially join your organization or chat with you further because they found you absolutely fascinating. So let's go ahead and give Ross a round of applause. Sir, again, bottom of my heart, thank you very much for your time today. I'll be circling back up with you and we'll have further conversations, but this was very insightful for me, being a former knuckle dragger turned Green Beret warrant officer. So, it's amazing what you're doing with your organization and what you're doing for the future of technology. So, thank you.